Imagine you are flipping through the pages of the Bible and notice that, while some stories are frequently mentioned in sermons and studies, others seem almost forgotten. Among these is the story of Seth and his descendants. Many are familiar with Cain and Abel, but what about Seth, the third son of Adam and Eve, who emerged as a new hope? It's as if an entire chapter of wisdom and spiritual legacy has been hidden in plain sight. Today, in a world where values are increasingly diluted, we ask ourselves, who still embodies the pillars of justice and faith? This is where Seth's lineage steps in. In the modern context, his story is not just another piece of the biblical narrative, but a powerful reminder of how the righteous can transform the world, even in times of moral darkness. Let us begin here, exploring why this legacy is far more than a simple sequence of names in a genealogy. It is a call to reflection. What lessons can we draw from this overlooked lineage? What is its impact on our spiritual journey today? With these questions, we take the first step on our journey. After all, understanding the past is essential to illuminating the present. Have you ever stopped to think about why Seth was so important in biblical history? His birth wasn't merely a family event. It represented a new beginning for humanity. After the tragedy of Cain and Abel, Seth emerged as a symbol of renewal. It's as if God were saying, there is still hope for humanity. But here's the question that few ask. What makes Seth's lineage so special? Why is it mentioned as a starting point for those who call upon the name of the Lord? And, more importantly, what does it mean for us today? This is our call to a journey of discovery. Together, we will uncover the secrets of this lineage, explore its spiritual impact, and understand how its values can still guide us through these complex times. To embark on this journey, we need the right tools. Let's seek the sources that will help us uncover Seth's legacy. To understand the impact of Seth's lineage, we must turn to the sources that will guide us on this exploration: Scripture and historical accounts. The Bible serves as our primary map, with passages like Genesis 4 verse 26. Then men began to call upon the name of the Lord, acting as small clues along the path. Moreover, we find remarkable figures in this lineage, such as Enoch, the man who walked with God and was taken without tasting death, and Noah, whose faithfulness saved humanity. These names demonstrate that Seth's descendants were not merely a lineage, but a living example of those who chose righteousness amidst corruption. These figures become spiritual guides for us. By understanding their stories, we begin to see how their steps can resonate in our personal journey of faith. With our map in hand, we proceed to the starting point of this extraordinary lineage, the story of Seth and his direct connection to redemption. Now that we understand the context and have the necessary tools, it's time to embark on this journey. It all begins with the birth of Seth, a moment that marked a turning point for Adam and Eve. After the tragic murder of Abel by Cain, Seth was born as a new promise, bringing hope to a broken family and symbolizing a fresh start for all humanity. In Genesis 4 verse 25, Adam declares that Seth was given by God as another offspring in place of Abel. This statement is not just an emotional declaration, but a powerful reminder of God's plan to restore what had been lost. Seth was not just another son. He was the beginning of a chosen lineage destined to carry the divine promise. The departure in this story occurs when Seth's descendants take a path distinct from Cain's lineage. While Cain and his descendants strayed from God, Seth's lineage began to call upon the name of the Lord, marking the start of a journey rooted in faith. But walking this path would not be easy. It's time to face the challenges and trials that shaped Seth's lineage and tested their faithfulness. No great story unfolds without obstacles, and Seth's lineage was no exception. They lived in an era marked by moral and spiritual decay. The world at that time was steeped in corruption, with Cain's descendants becoming synonymous with violence, selfishness, and rebellion against God. The mission of Seth's descendants was clear but profoundly challenging: to uphold justice and faithfulness in an environment that constantly pressured them to stray. Imagine the weight of that responsibility. What would it be like to live surrounded by a world that rejects the values you hold dear? They faced temptations, persecutions, and, above all, the loneliness of being a minority choosing to live for God while everyone around them did the opposite. Among their trials was the ongoing struggle to keep faith alive in a world on the brink of collapse. The moral decay would eventually lead to the judgment of the flood, but even before that, Seth's descendants faced the challenge of resisting the corrupt ways of Cain's lineage. Despite these trials, something powerful sustained Seth's lineage: the divine promise that upheld them and gave meaning to their journey. As Seth's descendants faced their trials, something remarkable began to emerge, a sense of divine purpose guiding them. They were not merely surviving, they were building a spiritual legacy that would echo through generations. In this context, significant figures arose, such as Enoch, a man whose relationship with God was so profound that he was not, for God took him. Genesis 5 verse 24. These individuals were not perfect, but they chose to live according to God's will in a world that seemed to have lost all sense of direction. Their commitment to righteousness was not just a personal choice, but a public declaration of faith. They were drawing closer to something greater, a mission that would culminate in the preservation of humanity through Noah. Yet, with this approach came crisis. The challenges were far from over, and the greatest tests were still to come. The greatest test for Seth's lineage came with humanity's increasing corruption. Genesis 6 provides a glimpse into this critical moment. The wickedness of man was great on the earth, and every intent of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. This description is not just a historical analysis, it is the portrait of a society in moral collapse. In this context, Seth's descendants faced a crisis that tested everything they had built. It was not just a matter of resisting external influences. It was about protecting the essence of faith and righteousness in a world seemingly destined for destruction. The crisis reached its peak with God's selection of Noah, a descendant of Seth, to be the bearer of his covenant. Noah found favor in the eyes of the Lord because, amidst the darkness, he upheld the integrity and obedience that defined Seth's lineage. This choice was no coincidence. It was the result of generations of faithfulness and commitment to righteousness. Out of this crisis, however, arose something extraordinary, a new chance for humanity, symbolized by the ark and Noah's central role in the story of redemption. The crisis that engulfed humanity, marked by widespread corruption and the looming flood, brought with it an unexpected treasure. This treasure was not gold or silver, but something far more valuable, the preservation of righteousness and faith, embodied in Noah and his family. Through them, Seth's lineage not only survived the flood, but also ensured the fulfillment of God's promise, the continuation of a righteous remnant on earth. The true treasure uncovered was not the ark itself, but God's covenant with humanity, reaffirmed through Noah. Salvation was not merely about physical survival. It was about preserving the spiritual essence that Seth's descendants had upheld across generations. This act of divine grace was no random twist of fate, but the culmination of a lineage that, despite immense challenges, remained steadfast in righteousness and communion with God. This treasure transcends the biblical narrative. It resonates even today, offering a message of hope, redemption, and renewal, even when darkness seems to prevail. However, what happened after the flood was equally transformative. Returning to a post-flood world brought with it new lessons and challenges for Seth's lineage, further shaping their spiritual legacy. After the flood, the world was physically renewed, but the lessons and results of Seth and his descendants' journey continued to resonate. The covenant made with Noah and his sons, descendants of Seth, established a new starting point for humanity. Genesis 9 verses 1 to 17 reveals that God made a covenant with Noah, promising never again to destroy the earth with a flood. The famous rainbow covenant became a symbol of this eternal promise. For Seth's descendants, this renewal came with the responsibility of preserving justice and faith in a world that still needed direction. While corruption and sin continued to plague humanity, Seth's lineage was given the opportunity to restart their mission, now with the assurance that God's grace would always offer a new chance for restoration. The results of this renewal were not just spiritual. Seth's lineage continued to be a light in a world of darkness, and faith in future generations would be passed down through the examples of Noah and his descendants. With this new life emerging, the lessons of Seth's lineage gain relevance for our time as well, where we can apply their teachings of justice and faith to our own lives. Noah and his sons returned to the land after the flood marked the beginning of a new era, but also revealed the complexity of restarting life in a world that had been renewed, yet not entirely transformed. The struggle for justice and faith, which had always defined Seth's lineage, was far from over. From Genesis 9, we see Noah and his sons rebuilding their lives, facing unexpected challenges such as Noah's failure to uphold his integrity in the face of alcohol, which led to conflicts among his sons. This story is not only an illustration of human shortcomings, but also a reminder that even after significant spiritual victories, the process of ongoing transformation remains essential. The return to life after the flood was not merely a restoration of the previous status quo, but an opportunity for reconstruction, both spiritual and social. Seth's lineage needed to reinvent itself, learn from past mistakes, and continue advancing in its mission to uphold divine principles. This was no easy task, but it was crucial to ensure the continuity of the justice and faith that began with Seth. Thus, new challenges arose, but so did a renewed understanding of the divine mission for Seth's lineage, which would continue to serve as a beacon of hope and faith. The post-flood return brought renewal, not only to the earth, but also to the spirit of Seth's lineage. While the failures and mistakes of Noah and his sons were painful lessons, they also represented opportunities to learn and grow. Across generations, the descendants of Seth were challenged to rebuild their identity and strengthen their commitment to justice and to God. This lineage not only survived the flood, but also became a source of spiritual renewal for the world. Each subsequent generation had the chance to start anew, to apply the lessons learned, and to live with a renewed vision of divine purpose. The covenant made with Noah, reaffirmed through the promise of the rainbow, became a cornerstone for the renewal of hope. From this foundation, Seth's descendants began to sow justice and faith, not only for themselves but for future generations. The new life that emerged was marked by a deeper perspective on justice and reconciliation. It was not a life free of challenges, but one with the potential to transform adversities into opportunities for spiritual growth. This transformation brought a fresh understanding of Seth's legacy, whose significance has never been more relevant or essential than it is today. The legacy of Seth, which began as a lineage of justice and faith in a chaotic world, culminates in a powerful and timeless message: the importance of perseverance in integrity amidst adversity. Throughout history, Seth's lineage not only survived the flood, but also kept alive the flame of justice, faith, and hope, values that continued to shape humanity after those catastrophic events. The resolution of Seth's legacy serves as a call to all of us in a modern world filled with challenges and uncertainties. It teaches us that while the circumstances around us may change and test us in unexpected ways, true justice and faith in God remain steadfast beacons of hope. Even in the greatest crises, like those faced by Seth and his descendants, there is always an opportunity for renewal and transformation. As we reflect on Seth's lineage, we are challenged to live with greater purpose, to cultivate justice that transcends human limitations, and to hold on to our faith even when the world seems lost. This legacy is more than an ancient story. It is a daily invitation to make a difference in the world with integrity and perseverance. The legacy of the righteous, embodied by Seth's lineage, reminds us that in every era, those who seek to live with justice and faith hold the power to impact and transform the world around them.